Hi, my name is Thomas, and no lie about it, I'm not Greek. I know the kind of blonde hair and blue eyes are giving it all away. So I used to be an ex-advertising guy, and I don't know how you feel about advertising, but to be honest, I hate 99% of advertising. So I've been on a journey the last 10 years or so to change advertising and to change companies into standing up for some of the social and environmental issues that we're facing here today. But I've learned a thing or two along the way, though, to be honest, because I actually don't think that those companies are really ready for doing that. I think actually you are the change that I'm hoping can create what we need. And let me give you an example why. Because if you think about change, we're all our own biggest enemies of change, aren't we? Every time we promise to change something, think about the New Year's pledges. You do New Year's pledges? Some of you do. Okay, I'm going to tell you one of mine. So I travel a lot. So this year I promised myself to exercise a little bit more. It's actually not going really well. My shoes are still lying in my bag today. Now I told you my New Year's pledge, so you'll have to be honest with me as well, okay? Honesty? So what I want you to do is I want to shout out your New Year's pledge. Don't be scared. So I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then you shout out your New Year's pledge. You get it, right? You can do it in Greek, you can do it in English. Ready? Yes? No? Yeah, it's really simple, okay? 3, 2, 1. Perfect, 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 perfect. Now there's a lot of honesty in the room. That's great. So obviously, the thing is that most of the time, as you probably know, you've done the pledge that I did, you wanted to go run, but unfortunately the running shoes are still lying in the hallway. Or maybe you wanted to lose a few kilos on that waistline, but damn, that Coke is really tempting, right? And that's the thing about advertising, because for the most part, advertising is really preying on those things. So they're getting us to kind of want that Coca-Cola. Oh, we're going fast here, sorry. All good. That's advertising for you. So what advertising does, obviously, it wants us to do all of these things. And the thing about it is, an unhealthy mind and unhealthy people, unfortunately, leads to an unhealthy planet as well. So I actually do think that here again we can do something personally about creating the change needed. And some years ago I wrote a book because I had a different belief at that time. It was called Goodvertising, because as I said, I thought, yes, companies can do this. Companies can stand up to the challenges, they can solve all of these things. I know it's still a little bit different in Greece though, but for the most part, I promise you, think about Adidas. They talk about, yes, we want to save ocean plastics. Or you have all these supermarket chains talking about, yes, let's combat food waste. But by the end of the day, do we really believe them? And is that really the right approach forward? Because for the most part, I kind of feel behaving a little bit like this. Trying to outcry each other, trying to outdo each other, saying, we are better than you, we can do this, we can save the world. So a lot of these companies, when they go on this journey, they ask themselves, it's not really changed in mass marketing, right? Brand is still cool. We're going to save it, we're going to do it. But do we actually believe them? Because even though, and I think that's great, I hope all of you are doing a little bit more sustainable behaviors than you used to. But sustainability is really getting more and more normal. But at the same time, unfortunately, when we look and want companies to do change, we actually don't believe them too much. So at the moment, when we ask young people, and there's so many young people in this room, but when in a survey they ask young people, 66% of people only think that companies done this to earn money. That's the only thing. So how do we go from here? So most of the time, I feel that companies go into what I call a hero trap, okay? They tell us they're the heroes, they can do the things. And instead, I think it's about time that all of us realize that we can be the heroes. If we don't like that company, we don't have to buy it. If we don't want to work for a company, we can start our own. And one of the girls that inspired me was a young woman from Sweden, so kind of our neighboring country, okay? And she was called Marita Lacroix. And she wanted to work in Starbucks because she believed in Starbucks' ability to kind of go in there, save the world, one cup of coffee at a time. She didn't get the job because, unfortunately, her hair looked like this. Apparently, race, sex, all that, it's good. Green hair, not so good, apparently. But what was good about it was that she set out and said, if big business doesn't want me, I'll do my own business. So she set out to create something called Wheelie's Cafe. And essentially, it's pretty simple. It's a bicycle cafe, and which is pretty cool. So if you don't want to work for the Starbucks or whatever, you can actually go there, you can get your own bicycle cafe, and you can be part of it. And what I really liked about it was that she creates a platform for all of us, no matter what our dreams are, to kind of go and pursue them. And they're already in about 48 countries right now. And it's really interesting to see a guy in Lebanon. He joined Wheelies because he just wanted to work more, he wanted to earn more money, he wanted to be a responsible dad. In my hometown, Copenhagen, the Wheelies couple there just loved organic coffee. So they wanted to do the greatest and best coffee. So it's a different thinking behind this company, if you think about it. It's not about the company like we're the greatest in the world. The company actually creates a platform for all of us to take part. So I think it's asking a different question. I think if you're in an organization and if you're in a company, there's one central question I want you to ask. And it's not the why you exist, but it's the who. So who can you actually help me become? Because I think what companies should do is help us. We talked about the New Year's splits, right? Wouldn't it be great that if companies could make us wiser or healthier or smarter rather than preying on our needs? Wouldn't that be great? Yes? Good. So in so many ways, it's also a different kind of leadership. When I grew up, most of my bosses were a bit like this. White, male, and always the visionary, always saying, you know, my vision, let's go in that direction, I decide, like a Steve Jobs, right? I'm the missionary, I get everything. But I don't think that that's what leadership is about. I don't think that that's what we need. When Obama got elected, and this is not about politics, again, this is about leadership. When Obama got elected on a campaign called Yes, We Can, we all remember that one, right? When he stepped down, and I thought that was beautiful, he said, you know, when I asked you to vote on me, it wasn't to believe in my ability to create change, but in your own ability to create change. So he was empowering and enabling all of us. And if you think about it, for the most part, we think that we're motivated by things like status and money and all of that stuff, but it's one big lie. In fact, we are self-motivated. We do things because we love them, because we're passionate about it. Think about the dancing piano guys. Isn't that amazing? Or I like surfing. I don't get paid to surf. I'm actually a pretty miserable surfer, but I still like surfing. So a lot of this stuff we do because we want. And let me give you an example from the world's biggest furniture maker. You probably all have some of their furnitures at home. One of the most top-selling things are called the Billy shelf, right? Isn't it crazy that we voluntarily go there, buy the flat pack, and spend all this time assembling it? I don't know how it is at your home, but I kind of feel when I succeed, don't always succeed, but when I succeed, I always feel pretty satisfied, right? So you feel a sense of accomplishment. When I don't succeed, most often argument with the girlfriend, but that's a different story, right? So what we should aspire towards, what I think is possible, is really to aim for that little thing, self-actualization, because that's what we want to do. And that's a beautiful thing, because we don't need more stuff. To be honest, stuff doesn't make us happy. And let me give you an example. When I was 14, my biggest wish was a ghetto blaster. You know a ghetto blaster, right? One of those like boom, 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 boom. My parents Took a lot of necking, but I finally got it. So, I was happy. My niece just turned 14, and she wanted something different. Her parents were scared as hell. Her grandparents kept calling me and saying, what is that about? She's a tiny girl like this. Her wish was jumping out of a moving plane in a parachute. Wow. But it tells us something, because in a world where we have too much stuff, it's about experiences, right? So anybody who's involved in leadership, whether you're an organization or whether you are a leader or whether you're a company, I created this little thing inspired by coaching. Coaching is goal-oriented. It wants you to succeed. And it asks 4 simple questions: what, how, who, and when. So what is the product you're selling? In what unique way do you deliver it? But the who is interesting. Who can you help your customers become? Push them towards that self-actualization. And the when, very important, because that's where we miss most of the time, right? We've done the pledge, but we forget to kind of move on. And why is this important? Because most of you probably want to buy from companies that behave well, that are more responsible, that have fair working practices. And when we ask people across the globe, 65% say, yes, we want to do that. We want to buy products that are great, companies that behave well. But unfortunately, only 26% follow through on that. So think about it, there's a 39% gap if we do this well. One example, one company that's doing this is a health insurance company. You don't have them here in Greece, but they're in multiple markets. And they're called Discovery. They have a very simple promise: to incentivize people to live healthier. Isn't that a pretty cool thing to say? Incentivize people to live healthier. And what they do is they have a program called Vitality. So if you go to the gym, if you go to the supermarket, you get rewarded. So it's a completely different mindset. And by doing that, they've actually succeeded getting people to exercise 35% more, 4.8 days per month, which by the end of the day is going to result in 2 years longer life, less disease. And for the company, it's good as well, because they have to pay out less in premiums. So I grew up in a world of mass marketing, mass communication, and that area is pretty much dead. Because today, and this is great news, we rule the world, and this little guy does, right? Because the immense amount of content we upload on YouTube, the fact that if we're not satisfied with a business, we can create it ourselves. And for the first time last year, I saw some encouraging numbers. Because today, young people like you in this room believe that you are the change agents. And I think that's really great news. And why shouldn't you? Because you grew up in a completely different time than I actually did. If you think about the possibilities with platforms like Airbnb, Uber, and all of that stuff, it's just a different time. So if you're not satisfied with status quo, go and do something about it. So I think change starts a different way. And a young guy called Dave Hackens, he was passionate about plastics. But he created a different form of movement called precious plastics. So he created these do-it-yourself machines, and more than 100 people around the world have taken these machines, built them, and they turn the plastic into granulate, and then you can create amazing products. It's quite cool. So he creates an enabling movement for all of us to take part, and some of the people who've done that, there's people in Korari in Africa who is creating these beautiful, they're picking up plastic from the beach, and they're doing these beautiful, beautiful bowls. But this is also about the elephant in the room that I started up with. We have environmental and social issues that we need to solve. So how do we do that? I think we need to get rid of consumption, the idea of buying too much stuff. It's not going to make us happy. And if we think about it, as I said with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's so many other things that makes us happy. And think if companies, if organizations could help us achieve some of those things, some of those dreams. Maybe some of you want to do the dancing Il Grande Piano. Things like that, I think, is the way forward. So there's a new leadership, and this leadership begins with who. Who can you help me become? How can we take this state of inaction towards action? Move us from the New Year's pledge to never succeed to actually getting us to do those things. So I think that is the beauty, that we can create a more fair world where we all participate. And I see some encouraging signs. You've probably all heard about Greta Thunberg, right? The Swedish schoolgirl that created a movement with protests around the world. Isn't that incredible? This young girl inspiring school classes all over to create change. It wasn't about a visionary per se. She wanted to enable all of us to say, come and take part. If you agree, let's change things. Or the Me Too movement. If you think about the Me Too movement, it's actually pretty much a leaderless movement. It's a hashtag movement. So any girl, any woman, or any guy who wants to take part in creating a more equal society can do so. So it's a different type of leadership. So my own journey, in many ways, and I know this is not popular to say at a university, okay? But I studied at a university and I dropped out because I really didn't feel passionate about it. When I went into advertising, after having worked 10 years, I said, nah, I'm actually not value aligned. Why am I selling cheeseburgers to people who are already way too fat? Why am I selling cars in cities that are already way too congested, like Athens? So I set out to create change. But it's important that when we look at change, it's not about a missionary or Mandela or the big purpose, because most of us probably don't have that big burning purpose that we want to save the world. But I think each and every one of us have the ability tomorrow to create that little meaningful change. So change, I believe, really begins with you. And you are the first generation who so easily can create change. So my last wish to you is really to realize that power and go out and change the world, because I believe you can do it. So thank you so much.